There's a certain kind of silence that reveals the truth. It usually arrives late at night, when the world finally slows down, the notifications stop, and for a few honest minutes, you're left alone with your thoughts. And somewhere in that quiet, a question begins to rise: how much longer can I keep living like this? Not because your life looks bad from the outside, but because deep down, you can feel the difference between simply surviving and truly living. You go through the motions, you show up, you work, you pay, you repeat, and yet there's this quiet ache inside you that knows life was meant to feel more expansive than this. More free. More intentional. More yours. And that is where the desire for financial freedom is really born, not from greed, not from status, not from wanting to impress anyone, but from a deeply personal longing for peace, self-respect, spaciousness, and choice. At Liana Invests, I want to be very clear about something. Financial freedom is not some distant fantasy reserved for people who were born ahead, married rich, got lucky, or somehow cracked a secret code the rest of the world missed. It is possible for ordinary people. Thoughtful people. Quiet people. Women rebuilding their lives. Men tired of the pressure. Anyone willing to see money clearly and start moving differently. The real reason most people never become financially free is not because they lack intelligence or potential, it's because they've been conditioned to live in reaction instead of intention. They've been taught to work harder, consume more, upgrade faster, and call exhaustion ambition. They've been sold a version of success that looks polished from the outside but feels heavy and fragile on the inside. And if we're being honest, many people say they want freedom while secretly believing it probably isn't meant for someone like them. And that belief alone can quietly sabotage everything, because if you don't truly believe a different financial reality is available to you, you will unconsciously keep choosing the life that confirms your fear. You'll quit too early, doubt every strategy, call consistency too hard, and mistake discomfort for a sign that something isn't working, when often, discomfort is simply what growth feels like before it becomes visible. That's why the first shift is internal. Before you build wealth, you have to rebuild the way you see yourself in relation to it. You have to let your mind become familiar with the idea that stability, overflow, peace, and independence are not things other people get to have while you stay stuck watching from the sidelines. They are things you are allowed to build too. But belief alone will never carry you through the difficult parts. Because the path to freedom, while simple in principle, is deeply confronting in practice. It asks you to delay what feels good now for what matters more later. It asks you to stop performing wealth and start building it. It asks you to choose discipline over dopamine, peace over pressure, and long-term power over short-term validation. And you will not sustain that unless your reason is deeply personal. I want to be rich is too shallow to survive a hard season. You need something deeper. Maybe you want to stop feeling anxious every time your phone lights up with a bank notification. Maybe you want to wake up without that low-level dread sitting in your chest. Maybe you want to be present with your children, or help your parents, or travel beautifully, or simply know that your life is no longer controlled by survival. Whatever your reason is, it needs to feel real enough to hold you when motivation disappears, because motivation is fleeting, but meaning can carry you through almost anything. And once you have that emotional clarity, you need to understand one of the biggest lies people are sold about money, that financial freedom means saving some massive number and never working again. But most people don't actually want to do nothing forever. They don't want emptiness. They want autonomy. They want to wake up and know that their time belongs to them. They want to work because they choose to, not because panic demands it. That distinction changes everything. Because when the goal shifts from retire forever to never again be forced into work that drains me, the path becomes far more realistic and far more beautiful. Instead of obsessing over some intimidating number in the millions, the real question becomes, what does it actually cost to keep my life running each month with peace and dignity? Not the inflated lifestyle social media trained you to crave, not the fantasy version of wealth, but your true baseline, your housing, your food, your transport, your essentials, your calm. The moment you know that number, everything becomes more grounded. Financial freedom stops being this vague aesthetic and becomes a solvable equation. And this is exactly why lowering your expenses is not about punishment, it's about elegance. It's about removing what is heavy, unnecessary, performative, and expensive to maintain. Every dollar you no longer need each month makes your freedom easier to buy back. And that matters, because many people are not trapped because they earn too little, they are trapped because they have built a lifestyle that constantly consumes everything they create. They confuse upgrades with progress. They call convenience peace. They keep buying things that make life look elevated while quietly keeping them dependent. But true wealth is often quieter than that. It is not always flashy. It is spacious. It is intentional. It is the ability to breathe. And that's why your current job, while important, is usually not the thing that will fully free you, it is simply the thing funding your transition. Your job is phase 1. It is the season where you stabilize, reduce chaos, pay off what is draining you, build savings, and create enough structure to think clearly. But if you stay dependent on only one stream of income forever, then no matter how polished your life looks, your freedom will always remain fragile. Real transformation begins when you move into phase 2, when you begin building scalable income, not just linear income. Linear income is what most people know. You work, you get paid, you stop, the money stops. There is nothing wrong with it, but it has limits because your time has limits. Scalable income is different. It allows your effort to continue creating value beyond the exact hour you put in. It might come through content, digital products, consulting, a small business, a personal brand, education, strategy, systems, or anything rooted in skill and value. And yes, in the beginning, this kind of path feels painfully invisible. You put in effort and see almost nothing. You question yourself. You wonder if you're wasting your time. But that is simply what compounding looks like before it becomes obvious. Quiet. Unimpressive. Unrewarded, until suddenly it isn't. Most people quit in that invisible phase because they expect immediate proof. But the people who eventually become financially free are often not the most talented, they are simply the ones who stayed long enough for the compound effect to reveal itself. And that's why overthinking is so dangerous. So many people delay their next chapter because they are waiting for the perfect niche, the perfect offer, the perfect business model, the perfect moment to begin. But perfection is often just fear wearing a sophisticated outfit. The truth is, your first idea will probably not be the one that changes your life. And that is perfectly fine. The point is not to choose flawlessly. The point is to begin, observe, refine, and evolve. Action creates clarity. Movement creates identity. Repetition creates power. And almost everything required to build wealth in this era is learnable. That is the beautiful part. Most of what creates income today is not locked behind status or special access, it is built on skills, communication, marketing, writing, sales, content, strategy, positioning, problem solving, trust. These are not magical gifts. They are trainable assets. And if you spend the next year intentionally learning valuable skills while most people spend that same year distracted, numbed, entertained, and reactive, your life will not look the same. That is why investing in your mind is one of the most luxurious financial decisions you can make. But even then, none of this becomes sustainable if you rely only on motivation, because motivation is inconsistent, emotional, and unreliable. Some days you will feel inspired, and some days you will feel deeply resistant. That's why systems are everything. Systems protect your future from your temporary moods. Automatic saving. Automatic investing. Scheduled deep work. Clean routines. Focused habits. Structures that keep carrying you even when your emotions fluctuate. This is how real wealth is built, not through dramatic bursts of effort, but through elegant consistency. Quiet discipline. Repeated self-respect. And perhaps the hardest part of all is that for a while, this path will require you to live differently from the average person. You will think differently, spend differently, prioritize differently, and use your time differently. You will stop chasing appearances and start building actual power. And not everyone will understand that. Some people will think you've become too serious. Some will keep upgrading while you stay grounded. Some will keep performing wealth while you quietly build it. But that is the difference. At Liana Invests, this is the energy I want you to carry. You are not here to look rich, you are here to become free. You are not here to impress strangers, you are here to create a life that feels safe, beautiful, sovereign, and deeply aligned. So if you've been feeling behind, overwhelmed, or quietly dissatisfied with the life you're currently living, let this be your reminder that you do not need a perfect plan, a massive salary, or your entire future figured out tonight. You need a reason that matters, a strategy that works, and the courage to stay with it long enough for your life to begin changing in ways that once felt impossible. Because financial freedom does not begin when you hit some glamorous number in a bank account. It begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself financially and start building your life with intention. And if you keep doing that, softly, wisely, patiently, and consistently, the life you once only imagined in your quietest moments will not remain a fantasy for long. It will become your reality.